Welcome. Healing by design. We're still in A. We're still in A. It's going to be a while. We're still in A. There's a lot of A's. Arteriosclerosis. Let me just start the class with prayer. Father, we thank you. We love you. We appreciate your design of the human body. We desire to know more about how to steward it well, how to reverse sickness, how to prevent sickness. We just want to understand your heart when it comes to how you designed us to live on this earth and to be aligned with you properly. Teach us about how the heart works and just how to heal, that you're the nature of who you are as a healer. We thank you for everything that you do and how you guide our lives. We thank you for Jesus. We pray in his name. Amen. So, arteriosclerosis, which is hardening of the arteries, blocked arteries, heart attacks, heart disease, however you want to look at it. I think what's really been highlighted to me in these classes, because in Partnering with God, I'm doing kind of the big three. I'm doing heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Those are the diseases I think it's safe to say that are taking the most people's lives. And I feel like what's really been highlighted to me, and I know I probably talk about it over and over, but I just have to continue to stress it. And Wednesday night, we're going to do cancer, which is obviously a difficult subject to address. But I think, I just have to word it right, but I think the reality, I just want to share people the reality. I mean, you guys want to know the truth, right? That's why people come to classes. They want to know the truth about things. Okay? The truth is, people are dying of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. The truth is that people who love Jesus Christ and are going to be in eternity with him forever are dying of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. Right? And what's really hard, I think, for a lot of people to understand is, why isn't loving Jesus like give us a free pass to never get sick? I mean, really. And I know a lot of Christians struggle with questions about God, maybe their faith, because they're sick, because loved ones sick, because they have people all around them dying that they love in their 50s or 60s of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. And it's hard for us to understand. But the truth is God designed us to live a certain way on this earth. God designed us to live in cooperation and in coordination with his design. And he designed things to work a certain way. So I think it's safe to say that if we're seeing disease in record numbers, if we're seeing diseases like heart disease, diabetes, and cancer when even 100 years ago was extremely rare, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're violating principles of how God designed us to live on this earth. And even though it's tough to hear or even to say this, knowing and loving Jesus doesn't give us a free pass to do whatever we want on this earth. And so if we want to live in fullness in this age, we have to learn how to live in cooperation with God's design. And so we'll talk specifically about heart disease, but this is why I go over and over and over in my classes, and why I feel like the Lord has called me to share this truth, this reality, that we have to steward our bodies and put on our bodies the things of God, the things that God designed. And a big portion, if not now the majority of what we're doing today, how we're living our lives today, what we call food that we're putting in our body today, are not things God designed. And this is why the body's breaking down and failing. It's not necessarily a lack of faith. It's not because, I heard one person say one time that, a loved one died of, I think, cancer, and somebody actually told them, well, they wouldn't have died of cancer if you would have had enough faith. What a horrible thing to say to a person. Because again, the reality is, yes, Christ, through him, his blood, through his power, God can heal any disease and do anything he wants, anytime he wants, and he does that. He does that. And I love that God. I love the God of miracles. But what I love to teach about is the God of purpose, design, natural created order, and how he designed an earth for us to live on, And it's choosing the earth and the things of God over the man-made things. Or really, it's the enemy using people to create things that destroy the human body. Okay, so is that all fair to say? Okay, so getting into, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to reestablish that foundation again, that we have to live a certain way to steward our bodies, to have health and choose the things of God, or we will succumb. We can get these types of issues, regardless of how much we love Jesus. I know that's hard to say, but... So, heart disease. We just did this class last Wednesday night. This one's specifically arteriosclerosis, which is just a fancy word for the hardening of the arteries. And so as the arteries get hardened and blocked, it starts to cut off blood flow. And of course, that's not contrary to God's design, that we would die of heart disease, that we'd die of a blockage in this arterial system that's made of over 100,000 miles of tubing. And the tubing has to be free-flowing of blood for it to function properly. So heart disease statistics, 1 out of every 2.5 deaths, heart disease. And again, pre-1900, virtually non-existent. The actual first recorded myocardial infarction, which is the medical technical definition of a heart attack, was written about in the 1920s. So I'm not saying it didn't exist before then, but if it did exist before then, it was extremely, extremely rare, so rare that they didn't even have a name for it. So again, this is a product of not living in cooperation with how God designed us to live on this earth. So every 29 seconds, somebody has a coronary heart event. Stroke, number one cause of long-term disability. 2007, so almost 10 years ago, heart disease cost Americans $286 billion out of pocket. In 1900, heart disease killed 1 in 7. By 1963, 1 in 2. So we want to talk about how this occurs. How does the cardiovascular system get damaged? What can we do to keep it free and clear and flowing so that we don't have heart disease? And even how could we reverse heart disease if somebody in our family has heart disease? Because there's plenty of people that have had heart attacks and strokes and have lived. And if I could give kudos for 2 minutes to the medical system, they're really good at saving lives. And so I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that they have ways to bring people back to life after they've had a heart attack. And that's a good thing. Again, what's sad is that we'd ever even need that in the first place. There's a story I heard one time about a guy who invented some machine to check people's hearts to see if, there was going to be like blockages in their arteries or something to that effect. And the guy said, oh, this is like early 1900s. He's like, oh, you'll never need that. That's not even an issue. That's not even a concern. And now here, like 1 out of 2-ish people have died of heart disease. So there's something we're doing that's causing this problem. So the main things I list related to heart disease, and I'm not saying there's not spiritual components, there's not emotional components, they absolutely are. Our emotions affect our health, but it affects our physical bodies a lot of times if we have emotional issues that we haven't dealt with. Creates acidosis and negative physical effects in our body through emotional issues. So that's a component as well. But I mainly talk about the physical components. And I give those silly examples that you guys have heard 100 times, but you don't put Diet Coke or Coca-Cola on your plant and expect it to live. And you don't feed your dog Skittles and Doritos and Ho-Hos and donuts and expect it to not get sick. Because these are things God designed, and God designed us. And you can't put whatever you want in your car and expect it to work. So you have to put the right things of God in our bodies for our cardiovascular system to flow the way God designed it. So if our cardiovascular system is going to flow the way God designed it, what do you think the most important thing is that goes in the human body?
Water.
Water. Thank you. Good job. Oxygen too. Let's stop at water. Well, that's what water is, H2O, right? Hydrogen and oxygen. So the most important thing that goes in the human body is water. And again, you look around us. Did God make rivers flowing with Coca-Cola? How about Red Bull? How about Mountain Dew? How about, a diet soda? All these weird man-made chemical concoctions that we're putting in our body. So God made water. All animals in nature drink water. I don't hear of a lot of animals getting heart disease or getting strokes. Now, people's dogs, has anybody known of a dog that had a heart attack or a stroke? I've heard of it. It's still pretty rare, but animals in nature don't really get it. Our pets get cancer. Our pets get diabetes, but it's because we feed them. It's because they don't live off of God's provision off of the land. And again, if you look at ancient cultures, you will find that ancient cultures that lived off of God's provision off of the land, that didn't have man-made, invented weird foods and chemicals, they did not have heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. It was degenerative disease was pretty much non-existent in these cultures. And there's still pockets of them even today that live in mountainous regions in different parts of the world that do not, for the most part, do not know cancer or heart disease or diabetes. So again, it just goes to show us that how we live in our lives, how we steward our bodies, our choices to choose the things of God is going to determine our health more than anything else. So water's the most important. So that would be the first step, is just getting everything out of your diet liquid-wise that's not water, because there's no value in it. Now there's value in herbal teas, of course, green tea, and there's all kinds of different herbal drinks you can drink. And I kind of got a list of herbs and things at the end, but I'll just give you a few now as we're going through it. I want this class to be different than the one I did just last Wednesday, so I'll just mix it up a little bit. But I'll tell you some of my favorite herbs for the heart and the cardiovascular system. Everybody's heard of hawthorn berry. And I mentioned that dark, rich, deep, antioxidant-rich colored berries are all amazing for the heart because they look like blood and they help to build blood. So vegetable-wise, it'd be beets is probably one of the best things you can do for your heart and your blood and your liver and your gallbladder. But berry-wise, any of those dark, you heard like every year there's a new popular like cool berry, right? Like one year it was acai berry, and then it was the goji berry, and then it was the maki berry, and then it was the noni fruit. I don't know, whatever. I mean, there's always the new, latest, greatest thing. Why? Because God created lots of really cool things that are good for us. And so we're discovering them, and that's cool. But all those deep, rich, dark-colored berries are amazing for your heart. The antioxidant, the protective effect that it has, the ability of it to build blood. So this is going to be like the hawthorn berry, cherries, pomegranate is amazing for the heart. The acai berry, and you could go on down the list. You could probably name like 20 of them. But those are really, really good. How did I get off on that from water?
Because you're saying things you can drink other than
things
water.
Thank you. So things you can drink other than water. So I was talking about teas. So if you're going to drink a tea that's good for the heart, you can drink jogulin tea. That's one of the most popular herbs now in Chinese medicine. It's called jogulin, Jiaogulan. I think I have it in your top 10 sheet that I gave you. I think it's number 11. I put a bonus one in there with some herbs. But jogulin is known, I even have a little book over there. It's called the Chinese immortality herb. They call it jogulin because of its ability to do everything, kind of like ginseng does everything. It almost has the properties of a ginseng that helps with every single component of human function. So it's great for strengthening the heart. A lot of athletes take it. It helps the heart to beat more efficiently. It helps lower blood pressure. It helps with blood sugars. And it actually tastes pretty good. I love jogulin. So that's a really good herb to take, and that's another good tea you could drink. Of course, green tea, because of the antioxidant benefits of green tea. Cultures have been drinking green tea for thousands of years. Hibiscus would be another one of those berries. So the hibiscus would be another good one for the heart. So water and herbal teas. Other than that, we really shouldn't be drinking anything else. Now, if you drink a little coffee once in a while, that's okay. God made coffee, right? I'm not anti-coffee. Did God make coffee? God made coffee. What do we do to coffee? It's called Starbucks, right? We destroy it. We destroy the people, which Starbucks has done, has destroyed the farmers and the lives of the farmers. But we also destroy the beneficial components of coffee by alternate changing it, manipulating it like we do everything, and then adding the sugar and everything like that. So there's nothing wrong with a good quality whole bean organic coffee. There's actually a lot of health benefits to it. It's great for the mind clarity, energy, weight loss. It's good for all of those things, but it's got to be done in moderation. But coffee can be an issue for people, especially when it comes to heart issues because of the high caffeine content. My mom was an example where she had high blood pressure, and she was on medication, and every time she drank coffee, it spiked her blood pressure. So just depends on where you're at in your health and your body. But the key is mainly focus on water. It's the most important thing that goes in the human body. It's the most important thing for the flow of those tens of thousands of miles of the cardiovascular system. And if you're dehydrated, you'll get hardening of the arteries. You have to be hydrated. Your plant won't live. It'll start to, right, if you don't feed it water. Our bodies are the same way. I know people that haven't had water they don't even really drink water. They don't even like water. They drink other things. They drink soda and coffee and don't drink water. I don't even know how we can survive as long as we do with some of the things we do to our bodies. But water's crucial. So to get hydrated, just because this is such a key point, you really have to put minerals in your water, especially today. The most important mineral for hydration is sodium. So think about it this way. When you exercise and you sweat, what do you sweat? Salt. Because I know everyone's done this where they lick their skin after they sweat, right? You've all done it. Is it just me? Okay, it was just me.
Dogs do it too.
But dogs do it too. Okay, so it's salty. It's salty. Our sweat is salty. And so we have to replace salts. And we're told by doctors that salt's bad for you. Is salt bad for you?
No.
Okay, table salt is bad for you. The salt God gave us is not. It's not. So everything you hear that's about salt that's bad is all the man-made table salt, which we should be throwing away, and we should be getting salt of the earth. And if you put salt in your water, it's one thing I've had people do for years. Get the Himalayan pink salt, put it in their water in the morning, drink it, and oh my gosh, their blood pressure normalizes, they feel better, their mind's more clear, they have energy to start the day because they get hydrated. And a lot of people, we sleep for 8 hours, we get up in the morning and we drink coffee. And we're already dehydrated, so now we're drinking coffee that's causing more water loss. And so we start the day kind of tired and dehydrated. So starting the morning with minerals and water is really crucial. Just get purified water. We know tap water is not good for us, so purified water, add minerals to it. It's one of the best things you can do to prevent heart disease. The next biggest thing, I'm not going to put these in any order. I'm just going to mention them. I will tell you that I believe, in my opinion, it's just my opinion. I don't have any statistics to back this up except for just history and just looking at history and what's happened. I think the number one thing causing heart disease and the number one thing causing cancer, diabetes, and all those other thousands of illnesses we've caused today, and the number one thing that the enemy wants to think that it doesn't matter that we do with our bodies, it's the choices we're making in the foods we're eating. I mean, think about it. The enemy wants us to think that it doesn't matter what you do to your body and what you eat in your body, and you can eat donuts and chips and cookies and pop and everything's just going to be okay. Again, maybe because, well, I love Jesus and so it's okay. So that is a mistake. And again, if we know throughout history that the vast majority of the illnesses we have today started in the early 1900s. What's taking the most people now is what started in the 1900s. We've created this over the last 100 years. So we cannot be fooled anymore in not thinking it doesn't matter what we put in our bodies. And the food industry and fast foods and the packaged food industry has just done a real good job of altering God's design and allowing us to just put anything we want in our body that basically is self-pleasing. I mean, if you think about it, most people just eat what tastes good and what's pleasing to them. Not what's honoring or stewarding to their bodies, not what's honoring to God and creation and the things He designed. And I was the worst of the worst. I grew up and that's all I ate was junk food, and it caused health issues in me. And again, just kind of look around us. So, what's the most dangerous foods that would cause heart? What's the worst food? I've talked about it in multiple classes, so you know the answer. What's the worst food you can put in your body? A donut. Yeah, hydrogenated fats and oils in like white flour or white sugar. So basically you got like white flour or white sugar and rancid fats and oils, and you're combining them into a donut and you're eating them. And so that's probably the worst thing you can put in your body, outside of just some of the chemicals in our medications and things. But what we in our culture would determine food. And so if you were to go to, I'm just going to joke around and have a little fun here, but it's not really fun, it's really serious. If you were to go to a special church event that started at 7 a.m., in almost any church in America, what would you find? Donuts. Donuts and coffee. At every single event. Why? Why?
It's tradition.
It's tradition. There's no understanding about that it really matters what we put in our body. Most churches are seeker-friendly, and all they really care about is getting somebody to show up. And it's actually really sad, because I know a lot of people who aren't believers, who don't know the Lord, and you know where they go to eat, and they think it's weird to go to a church because they take care of their bodies, and it's weird to go to a place that they don't care at all what they eat and what they do to their bodies. Isn't there something wrong with that? I mean, if we're to be lights and bring people in, shouldn't we be honoring and attracting people with the quality foods and quality health? So that's something that's always really bothered me. But it just shows how little understanding there is to how important it is what we put in our bodies and how we steward our bodies properly. So what happened with heart disease, just to give you a little history, and there's a documentary you can watch called Oiling of America. And again, pre-1900, very little, if any, heart disease. And people were eating off the land. And people lived on farms, and people grew up eating butter and eggs and these kind of things, right? We mainly ate fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds as a culture, but again, a lot of people lived on farms, they ate animal products, and there wasn't these illnesses or diseases. What happened in the 1900s were people started getting disease, and they were trying to figure out why so many people were getting sick, so many people were having heart attacks, so many people were getting heart disease. And it turns out that it happens to be the same time when the food industry started creating all these fake foods. Do you know Crisco's been around since the 1920s? And I think it's still on the market, isn't it? Yeah. So these vegetable cooking oils and these things were invented by food companies in the 20s. And what it turns out is that these molecules, because they're hydrogenated, because they've altered and manipulated the structure of them, when they go into the human body, the body almost sees it as something that God designed because the original form was something God's designed, but it's been so manipulated that the body can't fully use it as nutrition. And what it does is it ends up partially being used and integrated by the body and literally just gumming up the system. So if you want to just totally congest your liver and your lymph and your cardiovascular system, then eat these rancid fats. So that's going to be donuts, fried foods, vegetable cooking oils, margarine, all the fake butters. And this was a marketing campaign. So in the 20s and 30s, they targeted women. They said if you love your family, then you will stop feeding them butter and eggs and lard and these kind of things because they cause heart disease, and you will instead feed your family margarine and cook with vegetable oils and eat these types of foods. It was a marketing campaign by the food industry to blame the wrong thing for disease, because what really causes these diseases more than anything is the processing of God's original design. Let's just say that. The processed foods. And has it gotten any better in the last 100 years? No. I mean, you go to the store and it's still all processed foods. I'd say 80% of that refrigerated section where the butter is still all the fake butters. It's just huge over there still. And so that's a real quick history on the rancid oils. So you want to instead, olives, things God designed. Like I have a little list I give people, like God made this, man made this. So obviously we want to eat the things God made. So man made all the toxic rancid oils, and God made fish and olives and almonds, and we know these things are good for our heart, right? And then sugar being the big one. My mom, with her high blood pressure, I use her as an example a lot. She was insulin resistant, didn't show up on blood work. I could just tell by what was going on with her. And when she stopped eating sugar, she was off all 5 high blood pressure medications in 2 weeks. She was on 5. She was off in 2 weeks. And it was because she was borderline insulin resistant. So if you eat sugar, and you eat especially processed sugar, it's going to destroy your digestion. It's going to destroy your pancreas. It destroys your liver. Think of alcohol, right? Destroys your liver. White sugar does the same kind of thing. Alcohol is basically liquid sugar, which is why it's so damaging. Goes straight into the bloodstream. Really, body doesn't have any defense against protecting it. And so, yeah, the more of these foods we eat, the more we risk having heart disease. And the way I explain heart disease in my knowledge, and I'm not going to say I definitely know all the mechanism of action to it. And one thing I say is I don't have all the answers, but I know the God who does know all the answers. So we just keep praying and asking for answers. But we know if we do the right things and steward in our bodies, we should not have heart disease. And so if you think of the heart as the pump, to pump blood to, again, estimates 60 to 100,000 miles of cardiovascular system, and the heart's the pump. And if the blood's flowing well and the pump's working well and the arteries and the veins and the capillaries are open and working well, the heart doesn't have to work too hard because it's pretty efficient in getting that blood to the rest of the body. Because you got to get circulation in your fingers and your toes and every part of your body, right? So why is high blood pressure an indicator for heart disease? The heart's having to work too hard. It's too hard for the blood to pump body throughout, for the heart to pump the blood throughout the body. So clearly there's a problem when our blood pressure is high. And so what's happening is we're damaging our bodies. Again, it could be through emotional issues. It could be through eating bad diet, which is why most people are sick. You know, all these foods we just talked about, the fats and the sugars and the rancid foods. And you think of diabetes, for example, what happens? People get neuropathy of the feet. The capillaries start to die at the ends of the end of their body, at the end of their feet, the end of their fingers, retinopathy, where the blood supply to the eyes gets shut off. All these little capillaries get shut down. And so as the body starts to get congested and thick and toxic, and the blood starts to get thick and not be able to flow well, instead of the heart pumping 60 beats a minute, boom, 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 now it's going boom, 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 like it's pumping harder and it's pumping faster. So what do we think is going to happen around our heart if our heart's having to pump harder and faster? It's going to wear out. It's going to wear out. It's like you got a water pump in your car. Think about it, the way the body's designed. There's such a reflection of it. There's so many of the machines and different things we make out there. And just the plants and everything, how everything works in nature. I've done tons of classes on in the Foundation of Creation series on how we're a reflection of how God designed the earth. We're dust of the earth, and we work the way plants and animals work, the way our bodies work. But it's a pump. It's a pump. And so the pump wears out. The arteries can wear out. If the arteries get damaged and wear out and you start to bleed out of your arteries, that's called a hemorrhage. That's a bad situation to be in. We're not supposed to hemorrhage. We're not supposed to get aneurysms. I don't think I talked about aneurysm in the last class. Let me just mention it. Dr. Wallach wrote a book called Dead Doctors Don't Lie. He went around and autopsied animals who were dying in zoos and on farms, and he'd find out why they were dying, and he'd correct the diet so that the animals wouldn't die anymore. That was his job. And people would call him from all over the world. And one farmer called him and said, I had 100,000 turkeys just die. Wow. Yeah, wow is right. Talk about a loss of profit. He went in, he autopsied the turkeys. He said, the turkeys are copper deficient. If you don't have enough copper, which is important to the strength of your arteries, you can get an aneurysm. So he started putting copper in the feed of the turkeys. The next year, 0 aneurysms. And again, we look around us, people are dying of all these different issues, and sometimes they're very simple solutions. And what's our medical industry doing for us, besides saving our life? They're not understanding how the body actually works to correct deficiencies or to talk about nutrition to stop putting the wrong things in the body that is congesting and clogging our body and our arteries. So back to the heart. It's pumping really hard, right? It's pumping fast, it's pumping harder, because all of a sudden it's like I'm trying to get blood into that big toe and it's blocked. and the blood is just kind of thick and stagnant because of poor diet or just the system's congested. And so that's going to tear the lining of the arteries around the heart. Okay? So that's why when we have heart disease, it's usually open heart surgery. It's because the artery's being torn around the heart. So how do we reverse that? It's lifestyle. It's lifestyle. We want to magic pill, or we just want to, change one little thing, but it's lifestyle. It's putting the right things in the body, changing to a diet of fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, Genesis 1:29 basically, which is what God clearly said to eat, right out of the gate. So if we switch to that type of a diet, which if you've seen any of those documentaries, isn't that what they're all doing? Have you guys seen those documentaries? Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, and Fast Food Nation, and what are some of the other ones? Super Size Me. I don't know. There's May I Be Frank. There's tons of them out there. And almost exclusively, what are they all doing? They're switching their diet. They're switching to eating raw foods, fruits, vegetables, lots of greens, nuts and seeds, getting away from all processed foods. And what's happening? They're getting healed. So my question again would be, why would we get these diseases in the first place? Because we're choosing to live a lifestyle that enables disease, that creates disease in the human body, that works against the way God designed the human body to function. That's what we're doing with pharmaceutical drugs. Every single pharmaceutical drug is a petrochemical, which means it comes out of coal tar, out of the earth. It's molecularly manipulated to force something to happen in your body, and they're all toxic to human design. There's not one pharmaceutical drug on the market that I know of that works with God's design. What works with God's design? It's a trick question. God's design, right? Water, food, nutrition, plants, herbs, all the things that they don't use in the medical system. That's what heals the human body. Nothing else is going to heal you and reverse your heart disease besides God and the things of God. There's nothing that the medical community is going to do outside of saving your life that's going to restore health to the human body. So it's really important that we understand that. Because we're not choosing God. We're choosing a man-made system. And every time we have an issue, we run to the doctor, expecting him to solve our problem. But our Creator should be our problem solver. All right, so cholesterol. Okay, so let me see. Did I touch on that? Yeah. So let's go to cholesterol now, because this fits in with this. The heart's working hard. It's pumping hard. It's tearing the lining around the arteries, and that's creating damage. And so how did God design the body? To heal itself. God designed the body to heal itself. So everything the body's doing, it's always trying to heal itself. So if you're tearing your arteries because of lack of motion, I didn't mention that, but of course stagnation is a big issue. So we have to exercise, we have to move, we have to sweat. We have to force ourselves to exercise 30 minutes, if nothing else, because we're designed to move. You can't have stagnant blood flow and not expect to get health issues eventually. So if we have this stagnation and the arteries get torn and the body has to repair damage, it's going to repair it, because otherwise you're going to hemorrhage. So what does it repair it with? Cholesterol, or anything floating through the bloodstream. So cholesterol is actually designed by God to be produced in the liver, to be in every cell of your body, to perform various functions crucial to human life, one of which is a repair tool. So cholesterol repairs damage in the human body. And so the more pain, inflammation, damage you have in your body, the more cholesterol you produce. And you have high cholesterol, they'll tell you you're at risk for heart disease, and they'll give you medication, which is a total false and erroneous belief system. It's that system and that thought process was designed to sell drugs. It's not true. But the body will repair it. So cholesterol, calcium, and then when they do an open heart surgery, this was in a documentary once. I think I would mention this. They talked about, people were talking about changing their diet to restore their health. And we're so ingrained with eating the foods we like and eating what we like when we want. People are talking about how extreme diet changes are and how hard it is for people to change their diets. And this is a medical doctor in one of these documentaries. He goes, I don't think that's extreme changing. I think what's extreme to me is having your heart, your chest split open and your heart exposed, and then having to take an artery out of your leg and plug it into your heart just to keep you alive, and then seal that back up. To me, that's extreme. I don't think you'd consider diet change extreme if you thought of it in that way. It's only extreme because we don't want to stop doing what we like to do. And sometimes we don't do things until they're too late. I mean, that was me. I waited till I got really, really sick before I decided to change my ways. And even with that, it's a still struggle and a battle up and down and trying to figure that out. So the body's repairing cholesterol, using cholesterol to repair damaged arteries. And so this is why when they do these surgeries and they see cholesterol built up in the arteries, they say cholesterol causes heart disease. Now, I don't know if doctors really believe that. Maybe they're probably taught that in school. But again, it's a way that the body's repairing the damage. The cholesterol is actually saving your life if it's plugging holes in your arterial system. Because think about it. People have been eating eggs and butter and different foods that contain cholesterol, and your liver produces cholesterol all day, every day for various functions. Why didn't it cause these problems pre-1900? Why doesn't it cause blockages in your knee and in your elbow and your neck and different parts of your body? It only happens around your heart or in your carotids going up into your brain. And that's because, again, how hard the heart's forced to work because of the congestion in our bloodstream. So cholesterol is not the problem. That's the key. Cholesterol is not the bad guy. Cholesterol is actually a steroid hormone. It's critical. I list, these are the notes from last Wednesday I didn't give you, but your brain's made of cholesterol. It's mostly fat. And so that's why nickname for cholesterol drugs like statin drugs are called the mind eraser or the memory zapper. Because what statin drugs do is they stop your liver from producing cholesterol. So do you see the erroneous thought process of the medical industry? Oh, cholesterol's high. That's an indicator for heart disease. I'm going to stop your body from producing cholesterol. And that's going to be our solution. We're going to stop. Remember I said that every pharmaceutical drug works against God's design of the human body. It stops the production of cholesterol in the human body, which you need in your brain, for your muscles, for your heart to work, which means taking statin drugs actually increases your risk for heart disease, which you can read studies that proves that. We need cholesterol. So we have a war against the wrong thing. The war should be against the food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the fast food industry. That's who our battle should be against, not something that the body naturally produces, which is cholesterol. So you need it for digestion. It repairs damage in the body. It reduces inflammation. The whole HDL, LDL thing is totally another thing that they use just to trick and confuse people, because why would we have good cholesterol and bad cholesterol? We don't really have good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. One carries cholesterol from the liver to different parts of the body. Why? Because we need it in every cell of the body, we need it in the brain, and we need it to damage things. So the body's transporting cholesterol to where it needs it. They call that bad cholesterol, because it's taking cholesterol out of your liver and putting it in different parts of your body. And they call the good cholesterol the one that takes it out of the body and recycles it back to the liver. They call that good because it's moving it out of the other parts of your body. So anyway, it's just a weird thing that they even talk about good and bad cholesterol, because there's really no such thing. It's really just different mechanisms of how the body's moving cholesterol throughout the body. Does cholesterol cause heart disease? No, it doesn't. It's not cholesterol in and of itself. And Oiling of America is a good documentary that explains all that, explains kind of the lies of the food industry and how they kind of Oiling of America. This is how they the marketing campaign that they used to sell their products that actually caused the heart disease. It's the processed foods that were causing the heart disease. And so what they did is they started giving people these statin drugs that stop the production of cholesterol in your liver. And the side effects are the loss of memory, neuropathy, nerve damage, anemia, cataracts, fatigue, muscle pain, and weakness. This is huge. Why? Because cholesterol is in every tissue of the human body. You need it for basic muscle function. You need it for energy production in the cells. And if you can't produce energy in your muscles get weak and tired and they start to hurt. I had somebody in my office just a few weeks ago, and I shared them they told me their symptoms and everything that was going on, and one of the issues they were concerned about was muscle pain. And I told them the truth about statin drugs. Because what I tell everybody, and I've said it many times, you've probably heard it before, sorry, I'm going to say it again. The number one side effect of stopping your statin drug is that you will immediately start to feel better. That's the number one thing that you will notice and experience when stopping statin drugs, because there's no value to them in human life. In fact, they're contrary to human life. And so this guy stopped taking his cholesterol medication, and he came back in a week, and he's like, wow, I can't believe how much better my muscles feel already. So see, you're a perfect example of how stopping taking toxic pharmaceutical drugs actually make your body feel better, because they get in the way of your healing. Other things that cholesterol drugs do is you lose CoQ10, which is actually stored in the heart, and it's also in every cell of the body. So this is why people on cholesterol drugs should be taking CoQ10. Ideally, you just get off the drug because you don't need it. And there are 900, this is way old information, but there's over 900 documented studies showing the dangers of cholesterol medication. Now, how can we not believe there's studies showing the dangers of cholesterol medications? Because if you look at a medication and you see the side effects, vertigo, I'm making these up because I don't know what the side effects are. Vertigo, dizziness, loss of sexual function, poor muscle function, increased rate of heart attack or stroke. You know, all those side effects are on medications. Those are all real things that happen to real human beings. Yet we're allowed to sell it and kill and destroy more people. It's a system designed to destroy people for money, if you want to know the truth about the pharmaceutical industry, which is not really a secret anymore. It's not conspiracy theory anymore. You said this stuff 20 years ago, and they thought you were crazy. But that's how it's designed. It's designed contrary to the way God designed the human body to work. So, and it's not that there's not studies proven in showing this. Loss of sexual function is another side effect because all steroid hormones are produced using cholesterol. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA. These are all basic steroid hormones that your body needs cholesterol to produce. So this is why libido and sexual function is a common side effect of taking statin drugs. So, what really causes heart disease? That's next. We kind of talked about that. It's basically the poor diet's absolutely number one, more than anything. The rancid fats, the trans fats, the bad fats, the processed white flour, white sugar. If you're going to eat those things, make it 3 times a year. Make it Christmas, and make it a special day if you even choose to do that. But really, the 99% of the time, we got to be putting things in our body that God designed to go into our body, because that's what's going to heal it, and that's what's going to make it well. I'll now just say again, exercise, movement, it's critical. One of the systems, let me stress one system real quick, because this isn't something I talked about in the last class. Let me stress one system that's really crucially important, because you have the blood, and I talk about the life of all flesh is in the blood, Leviticus 17:11 through 14. So the way God designed the body is to keep blood healthy and to protect the blood. So if we have issues going on in our bloodstream and our heart, that's life-threatening, right? We're talking about heart disease here. This is a life-threatening type of issue. What's the systems designed to help keep the blood healthy? Liver filters blood. Kidneys filter blood. Your spleen filters blood. Let me tell you what's a system that's, I don't want to say more important because they're all equally important, but one thing that's overlooked that I'd overlooked for a long time that's really been highlighted to me lately is something called lymph, or the lymphatic system. It's 2 to 3 times longer than the cardiovascular system. So we just talked about how the cardiovascular system's upwards of 100,000 miles long in the human body. Like, can anyone visualize that? And the lymph is 2 to 3 times more. And what the lymph does, it's the cellular waste dump of the body. It removes all toxins and all waste from the human body. It's what keeps the blood clean. The lymph keeps the blood clean. It's like the army, the army that keeps, that's where your immune system is. So you think about the lymphocytes and all these immune system related, whatever you want to call them, components of our immune system. But lymph is really crucial. So you want to learn how to cleanse lymph too. If you want to keep your blood healthy, again, going back, God designed the body to protect the blood. For us in knowing Jesus, it's all about what? The blood, pure blood, sinless blood. That was Jesus. That's why his blood heals everything, right? But to what level, to what extent are we trying to have purified blood in us? So that's what lymph is for, and that's what the liver is for, and that's what the kidneys for, is to protect the blood. So how do you move lymph? You have to exercise, you have to move, you have to jump up and down, you have to get a mini rebounder, you have to sweat, you can do massage, you can do hot baths. This is a fun one. Alternate cold and hot water in your shower. That'll jumpstart your lymph and your nervous system. Maybe this winter we all want to go do the polar plunge, down the... I've never done that. As crazy things as I've done, I've never done that. But anyway, lymph is really crucially important because if you have congested lymph, you can't really have congested blood. So understand the lymph system, that's important too. Let's see, what else? Aspirin, it's not good therapy for preventing heart disease, especially when it kills over 10,000 people a year, sends 100,000 people to their hospital, causes internal stomach bleeding, liver disease, kidney failure, and a whole host of other things. Just because you can buy it over the counter and just because everybody's using it and putting it in their medicine cabinet doesn't make it safe. It's still a man-made chemical drug. So aspirin's not good prevention. So let's talk about what is. Let's spend the last bit of our time, because you can read about the cholesterol myth. There's books you can read. Watch the class last Wednesday night because I talked in a lot more detail about cholesterol and all that. But let me talk about the main things you can do. I'll go down this list here of that I actually gave you for arteriosclerosis. If you want to fix your cholesterol numbers, not that it's crucial, but if you have consistently high cholesterol numbers, there is a sign of a problem in your body. Congestion in your bloodstream, liver issue. Something's going on if your cholesterol's 300-400 over and over and over again. There's something going on. So you want to work on your liver. That's a really important thing to bring cholesterol numbers down. Usually a lot of people, just by switching from eating donuts, french fries, fried foods, vegetable cooking oils, and fake butter, and they switch to just eating olives and fish and almonds and what we'd call healthy fats, a lot of times people's cholesterol numbers will reverse in a month. They'll switch that around from getting those bad fats out of their diet. And of course getting the sugar out of their diet too. But I list a few liver products. You can do herbal tinctures, you can do capsules, but just something that cleanses the liver. That's really important for helping with cholesterol numbers. If you really want to go crazy with it, you could do enemas like coffee enemas. They're really good for helping the liver to dump toxins. I have a 4-bottle cleanse from a Chinese doctor out of Canada called Prime Health, and it's like a liver gallbladder flush. It's like a 21-day cleanse, and I've seen a lot of people really benefit from something like that. So work on your liver if you want your cholesterol numbers to be better. We'll do the questions at the end. Sorry. Second thing, let me mention the 3 things. I like to mention this in classes. The 3 things that you could take. Now, of course, you want to live a good lifestyle to reverse blocked arteries, because I haven't even talked about that, but can you reverse arteriosclerosis? Can you reverse hardening of the arteries? Absolutely 100%. Anything can be reversed. If we don't believe that, what kind of God do we believe like we have? But we see how much lies and deception and how many lies we're told in the medical industry that you can't heal, you can't get better, take this drug. All we can do is give you rat poison like Coumadin to make your blood so crazy thin that even if you keep getting hardened arteries, you won't maybe have a heart attack. I mean, that's their method for seeing people get better. Like, where's the redemption? Redemption is choosing and following God, living in alignment with how God designed us to live on this earth. And what's the reward? Health, healing, longevity, life force. I mean, that's what God wants for us. We're just not, a lot of times we're not choosing it. So the 3 big things that I like to talk about, that if you put these things in your body, it's pretty much impossible that you'd ever have a heart attack or stroke. The 3 things is, one is magnesium. Every doctor, and especially every cardiologist in America, should have every single one of their patients on magnesium. Do they? No. And why not? It's criminal that we don't, because thousands of people have lost their lives when they could just take magnesium. So magnesium, why? It's a vasodilator. It's crucial for heart function, for regulation of the heartbeat to heartbeat properly, and it helps clean out blockages out of the arteries. I love the magnesium oil foot baths. I talk about it number 2 here, where you soak your feet in magnesium before bed and people sleep better and cramping goes away. But for the heart, magnesium is crucial. Crucial, crucial, crucial. Now, in addition to magnesium, what else is important? All your electrolyte minerals. That's what helps your heart to beat. People have irregular heartbeats. They need to get ablations. I was on atenolol for 10 years. I told that story in the class last Wednesday night. But it was just an adrenal issue. It was adrenaline being pumped into my bloodstream that was causing my heart to beat too fast. But you need all the electrolyte minerals. So calcium, potassium, sodium. I talked about sodium, right? We're scared of sodium because of man-made things, man-made table salt. But if we start putting a little salt in our water, putting salt in our food, a good sea salt or the Himalayan pink salt, if we start taking some electrolyte minerals, irregular heartbeats go away for the most part. Rapid heartbeats go away for the most part. High blood pressure gets better 4 out of 5 times. Just hydration and minerals is so crucial to having a healthy heart. And again, why? It's because how God designed it to work. God designed the heart to be this organ that functions off of electricity. How do you make electricity happen in the human body? Water and minerals. Think of like an electric eel. That's what they used to save people's lives back before they had all these fancy machines. They just hook them up to an electric eel. They really did. But actually, I don't know why I say these random things just because I think they're funny. But again, before we had all this technology, there's farmers, when they'd have issues with sickness, or I don't know if it was a heart issue or different levels of sickness issues, they would actually purposefully shock themselves on the electric fence because it would heal them of different issues, because it jump starts the nervous system. So again, think the heart is an electrical organ. So in order for electricity to fire in the body, I always talk about the body is like a giant ocean of electrical activity. You have to have these minerals in your body for your blood to work properly, for your heart to work properly. And so many people are giving drugs for a rapid heart rhythm or for high blood pressure when they're just dehydrated and they're mineral deficient. So start with magnesium. Electrolyte drops are good. Do I talk about them here? Oh yeah, I did 2 twice. Sweet. So number 2, I talk about Endure electrolyte stamina tablets, just liquid mineral drops, trace minerals that you can add, electrolyte minerals that you can add to your water. Can be huge for so many people, especially for heart issues. Daily sunshine, connecting to God through nature, getting your barefoot on the earth, earthing sheets. So we're talking about, you know what? I'm skipping ahead. Sorry, I was going to talk about the 3 things. Magnesium was 1. The second thing is cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper. Now, cayenne pepper, garlic, those kind of things, cayenne being the most powerful, is going to do what these drugs do. But instead of side effects, they're going to have side benefits. So cayenne pepper is one of the most healing plants ever designed by God, that's used to heal hundreds of different health issues. There was a doctor who exclusively used cayenne pepper and lobelia to heal hundreds of cases of asthma, just using 2 herbs, just using 2 plants. So cayenne pepper, somebody has a heart attack, you put some under their tongue, it'll actually bring them out of the heart attack. And they might not have to go to the hospital. That happened to us at the health food store we worked at in Las Vegas. So magnesium, cayenne pepper, and the third thing is systemic enzymes. The one I talk about is Nepronol, which I have down here as number 4. That's the main thing I recommend people to clear out blocked arteries. Or if you just want to prevent heart disease, you can take like 4 a day, and your arteries will stay clear. And you don't have to take aspirin and risk all the side effects of aspirin as therapy and support a company like Bayer, some of these pharmaceutical giants that are destroying human life. So again, reaping and sowing too. What are we putting our money into? We're putting our money into things that are destructive. We need to be putting our things into God's kingdom. And He's given us everything we need. So those are the big 3. Systemic enzymes. I've given those to people for years to clear blockages out of arteries. And I have a test that shows people from a 1 to a 7 if they have blocked arteries. And we can check it. And we see it go from a 5, which is super dangerous, to a 4, to a 3, to a 2. I've seen it go from a 4 to a 2, like in a month. And so these things work. And again, it's because God's a healer. So if we choose the things of God, we'll heal the issue. If we choose man-made drugs and medications, it might thin our blood and protect us from having a heart attack. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Is it healing the body? No. Not only is it not healing your issue, but it's causing more problems. And this is how people get on more and more medications, and I don't have to get into all that. But one medication caused something else to fail, so you take a medication for that, which causes something else to fail, and on down the road. And then you're on 15, 20 medications. So those are the big 3 for heart disease. I do also talking about earthing sheets, connecting to God through nature, standing barefoot on the earth. You can get the earthing sheets that you can put on your bed. They can show in a live blood cell analysis blood platelets sticking together, which is coagulation, and then you step on that earth barefoot, or you sleep on one of these earthing sheets, check your blood again, and your blood's not sticking together. The red blood cells, you can see them flowing and passing right by each other. So that's an awesome thing. The Neprinyl, they've done the same studies. And they actually show it right on their little pamphlet that shows the blood platelets clumping together, and then what it looks like after taking the Neprinyl causes them to be free-flowing. And then you don't get coagulation. Then you don't get stagnation. So coagulation is stagnation. So we want everything free-flowing. Let's see. L-arginine as an amino acid. A couple guys won a Nobel Prize for learning that L-arginine clears blockages out of arteries. So you can take supplements related to that. I think the most important thing you can do, almost sounds like a joke these days, eat right and exercise. Right? I mean, doesn't everybody say that? Don't we all know that? Even doctors say eat right and exercise. Yet they don't use that as a therapy and teach people how to do it. They just give people the drug and say eat right and exercise. But most people, we don't even really know how to do that anymore. Because our life used to be eating right and exercising. Because for 7,000 years of human history, all we had to eat was food based off of God's provision that came off the land. And we had to work hard for it. So eating right and exercising wasn't a part of the equation in health manuals for the most part over the last few thousand years. In the last 100 years, it's all you hear about. Why? Because we've created lifestyles that create sickness and disease. We've created lifestyles that create stagnation. We've created lifestyles that eat processed man-made chemical foods that cause the breakdown of the human body. So we have to do the opposite. Today's day and age, we have to be intentional about choosing God, really, because it's not the main way we live our lives anymore. As crazy as that sounds, especially as believers. Like, I love Jesus, and I have to be intentional about living in alignment with God. I do. I have to exercise, I have to eat right, I have to do the right things, because we're vulnerable today. Because we've been so taken over by a system that separates us from God. Through our medical system, our school system, our government, our food system, it's all contrary to how God wants us to live. And so we have to be intentional. That's my point. So diet-wise, how do you do it? You just switch to a light, call it a vegetarian-based diet, and I'm not against eating meat. I know what the Bible said, and I know Noah was given all the clean and unclean meats and what he should eat. And it's very clear in the Bible. But people who get better the fastest, just eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, and legumes. Get away from all the dairy and the processed stuff and the meats, and you do that for a few months and take some of these supplements, do water, exercise. If we do the right things, God wants to heal us. Can I just say that? He's desperate to see his people healed. And how heartbreaking is it, that we're not seeing the healings. We're not seeing the breakthroughs. We're praying and praying and praying. We're seeing some healing, but we're not seeing the fullness of it. And part of it is it's stewardship and aligning with God. God's not going to fix every single person's issue with a miracle. We know that. We know people that have died of diseases that are in the church that have had hundreds of people praying for them. Haven't we? And so what do we want to say? Well, it's just God's will that person just die of cancer. No. Certainly was not God's will. Certainly was not God's heart. I truly feel like this is a generation of people that are waking up. Waking up to the truth, waking up to the lies and the deception that have been told to us by the medical industry and the food industry, that it doesn't matter what you do and that you can use our man-made drugs for disease treatment. Again, God is the only answer. So switch to a light diet. Greens are very awesome for just blood cleansing. I love Genesis 3:18 through 20, somewhere in there, but it's part of the curse where God actually commanded us, and he said, you shall eat the herbs of the field. Why did he say you shall eat the herbs of the field? Because he knew we had to eat the herbs of the field to keep our bodies clean and healthy. Think about animals. They eat grasses, they eat greens, they eat leaves. They keep their bodies clean and purified. If we don't eat those things, our bodies will not stay clean and purified. They will get sick. They will get sick. No one's immune to this. Greens cleanse the blood, cleanse the lymph, cleanse the liver, build blood. They look like human blood. They have the same mineral composition as human blood. If you drink liquid chlorophyll from alfalfa or some kind of a green product, It actually drops off a magnesium into your body, looks for iron, picks it up, and it becomes human blood. It's basically like a blood transfusion. So are some of the minerals, like the ocean minerals that people take. So it's very powerful for cleansing the blood, greens, and also the herbs, the cleansing herbs, the herbs that cleanse the blood, that cleanse the lymph. And God gave these herbs and things to us because I think He knew we were going to need them. We just had to make the decision if we're going to use them as part of our healing, or if we're going to choose a man-made medical system that promotes sickness and disease. So we really need to start choosing the things of God if we're going to heal our bodies. And He's given us these tools. He's given us the greens and the herbs and the things that He's created and designed that will restore health to the human body. Talk about avoiding angiograms, or avoiding statin drugs and being careful with angiograms because they're very inaccurate. Usually they'll go up through an artery in your leg, and I've heard the accuracy rates are like 30%. So what happens a lot of times with cholesterol medications and some of these, and people don't realize it because we're so desperate to sometimes get, and I'm not saying there's not a time and place for it, but we're sometimes so desperate for like a lab test, and we believe everything we read, everything we see, every test that comes back, we believe it. We believe everything the doctor says, and people turn into patients who don't really have any health issues. People are told they have something that they don't. Breast cancer is a big one for that, and we'll talk about that when I go to the A to Z. But you know how many tens of thousands of women have been falsely diagnosed with breast cancer, given chemo and radiation, and killed them? False diagnosis. Over and over and over, and it's still happening today. It's sickening. This is our medical industry. So be careful with testing. Be careful with believing everything you see. If it's a serious type of issue, go get 4 or 5 opinions. At least. Sometimes that's not even enough. I just watched the Truth About Cancer. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but a guy got 17 doctors told him that he had anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months to live. 17 different doctors confirmed it. He went and got natural therapy help in Mexico because sadly we can't get it here. He went to Mexico, and that was 8 years ago when 17 doctors told him he was going to die. So don't believe, sorry to say this, but don't believe what the doctors say. Because they're only as good as the training they received in school, and the training they received in school is exclusively a product of the pharmaceutical industry. So we know that. I'm just reiterating it. So heart disease, just as always, choose God. Choose the things of God. Steward our bodies well. Be intentional about choosing God in today's generation, because one thing I love to share, especially with youth, I see a lot of teenagers in my office, and God chose us to be in this generation. In a generation where you have more opportunity to do the wrong things, look at the wrong things, eat the wrong things. In this generation, God chose us to be in this generation because He's looking for overcomers. He's looking for people who will choose out of a system that's been completely taken over by a spider web of the enemy's hands in almost every single industry. And He's looking for overcomers. And that includes people to eat right and steward our bodies well. And it takes intentionality today. Because if you're not intentional today, the world will consume you. If you want to live just a convenient, I can't eat well because it's convenient and my life's so busy and so I just eat fast food. Okay, but you could potentially pay for that. So just understand we have to be very intentional today. God called us into this generation for a purpose. His heart is not for us to have heart disease. His heart is for us to be free-flowing, full of life, full of the Holy Spirit, full of water and God's creation, so that we can do the fullness of what God would have for us on this earth. And we can't do that if we continuously choose the things of man. So that's it for heart disease. Any questions? Let me let you go first, because you were going to ask in class.
When you talk about the cleansing, you talked about the 21-day one. How frequently should you do a cleanse?
That's a good question. She said, how frequently should you do a cleanse? I would say at the bare minimum, you would do a cleanse twice a year. Spring and fall. Bare minimum. Now, some people, it depends on their health issues. Some people are just sick. They have degenerative issues or chronic sickness, and they're cleansing for 6 months straight. But in general, if you can do a spring cleanse and a fall cleanse, that would be great. Now, there's so many different ways you can cleanse, so that would be a long conversation. But yeah, it's really up to the person, but those are good times to do it. Yes?
So, in terms of calcium, I know that for the most part, dairy products, unless maybe they're raw, aren't a good way to get calcium. So, I'm just not sure what a good way is to get calcium. Is it just through mineral supplements, or is there foods that are high in calcium that your body can process, or?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tricky question. I'm gonna approach this from. It's a tricky question. I'm trying to even think about how to answer it. That whole thought process of calcium is a result of, really, if you want to know what it is, it's just a result of marketing. It's just marketing. We believe that companies like, oh my gosh, you got to get enough calcium, so you got to drink milk. And that's been the cry of the dairy industry for 50 years, and it's to sell product. And people aren't calcium deficient. People are calcium deficient, but it's not because they don't eat foods that contain calcium. All nuts and seeds and greens and green leafy vegetables, all those things are loaded with calcium. Look at any, and I know we're not animals, okay? But the foods we need and the foods animals eat are foods that God provided to us. And look at a horse or a hippo or a rhino or an elephant and tell me there's not calcium in grass, or herbs, or leaves, or plants. Look at gorillas. They can tear a person in half, and they're vegetarians. So the problem isn't that we're not eating enough calcium. The problem is our lifestyles are causing calcium depletion in our bodies. If you're stressed out all the time, you drink soda pop, donuts, things that cause acidosis in the body, you're chronically stressed out, your body's going to lose calcium. For the average person who just eats a good diet, you're not going to have to worry about calcium deficiency. Osteoporosis isn't because people didn't eat enough calcium. It's because they live a lifestyle that causes depletion of nutrients out of the bones. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like the calcium supplements I have, for example, and I just have a couple, but they're just plant-based calciums. And the highest sources are your algae. So like chlorella, spirulina. All your greens are really high in calcium, but chlorella, spirulina, algae cow, hydrilla, those kind of algae are probably the highest known sources. Anyone else? Yes.
What about flax oil? We use ground flax seeds in the morning. We put them in our smoothies.
Right.
But what about using flax oil, instead of olive oil on your salad? Does flax oil good?
Yeah, so flax oil is good. Yeah, the omega-3 fatty acids. I didn't really talk about omega-3s. I talked about eating fish and olives and those kind of foods. But yeah, fish and flax are the two best known for the omega-3s, which we know are anti-inflammatory and good for the heart. And so yeah, if you want to use some flax oil instead of olive oil, that's great. Or on your oatmeal or whatever.
Yeah.
That's great.
What about peanut oil? Is that not good?
I don't know if I would recommend peanut oil.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's stable enough. I don't know the stability of it, but just peanuts in general are problematic because of the aflatoxins, high in fungus, and it's just a highly commercialized product. And I just know too many people that have problems with peanuts. I think flax oil would be a better choice.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to ask another question?
Yeah. This is off topic, but can you give an opinion on silicone bakeware?
I think we have some. Can you give an opinion on silicone bakeware?
Is it safe?
I think it is, yeah. Yeah. Silicone is kind of like that rubbery plasticky stuff, right? Yeah,
Non-stick.
Yeah. I think it's I honestly don't fully know what that's from, because I'm going to say I think, and I could be wrong, okay? I never claim to know much of anything, but I believe silicone is from sand, right? Which is what glass comes from. And so if you heat it, you can, mold it together. So there shouldn't be any, metals involved or anything like, it should just be sand, which is basically like broken down coral or rock. So we actually I know we have silicone stuff, because we looked at it at one time and I'm like, oh, this is safe, this is good, it won't leach, all that kind of stuff. So I think silicone's good.
Okay.
But the Teflon.
Teflon, definitely not. Yeah, that's DuPont, and They say that if you cook in a Teflon pan, don't be surprised if you wake up one day and your parakeet's dead because of the off-gassing. It's actually happened. It's actually killed pets in people's homes. Yeah.
So what all do you recommend for like the cooking ware then? You said silicone, glass,
Ceramic.
ceramic.
Yeah. I think the best cookware is probably ceramic. Glass and ceramic, yeah. I mean, if you think about, I always like to use biblical references. What are we? We're earthen vessels. We're earthen vessels. Think about the clay and the potter, and God wants to mold us and shape us like clay. Well, what did we use for thousands of years? We used earthen vessels. We used clay. We used clay pots. We made utensils out of clay and things of the earth. And now we use heavy metals, and and we know that they're not good for us. But it's hard because you want to buy a really good cookware set and be prepared to pay a fortune. Now things that are fake and chemical are really cheap, and things that are like of the earth and things God designed are really expensive. I mean, how completely backwards and upside down as our culture became. It's pretty crazy.
They say iron cookware is good too.
They say it, but
Iron
you
skillets
definitely don't want to do that much iron.
So heavy.
Yeah, it's heavy, and then there's definitely people that have issues with too much iron, hemochromatosis. You get all that elemental iron in your body that you can't digest, process, absorb. That can cause major, major issues.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd be cautious with that too. Yes?
Nitronol and arginine,
Yes.
are they do the same job, or do you need to do both?
Nepronol and arginine, do they do the same? They're different. I mean, L-arginine is an amino acid that does various different functions in the body. The nepronol specific, I don't know. L-arginine is a vasodilator. Kind of like magnesium is a vasodilator. It serves a different purpose in how it dilates the arteries like magnesium. Whereas the nepronol, I call it like Pac-Man. It goes into the arteries and it cleans up old, sick, dead, diseased tissue, clears out blockages, cleans up scar tissue. That's what the enzymes do. So it's good to do both. You want to dilate your arteries, but you also want to clear up and clean out the gunk, which is what diet and exercise is going to do. But nepronol is specifically good at clearing out those arteries.
So you can take both together.
You can take both, yeah, absolutely.
The other question is, where do you get those endured electrolytes tablets?
We have electrolyte tablets here. Yeah, like the electrolyte stamina or something like that. Yep, we have them all here. Okay. All right, we'll end it there.